Welcome back to Grace to Endure. In this video, we are in Daniel chapter 7, and this is part 3. We've also added the question, what will the world look like before the 10 and the Antichrist get here? And we're going to keep trying to develop a biblical picture of what that will look like. Okay, now look at Daniel chapter 7, and as we're going to keep doing, we're going to look for the 10 in the passage, and the 10 kings are mentioned first in Daniel chapter 7, verse 7 at the very end. And so we're going to look at the verses preceding it. Let's look right in front of those and study it out. So in order to do that, we're going to get started at verse 2. Daniel said, "In my visions at night I was watching, and suddenly the four winds of heaven stirred up the great sea. Four huge beasts came up from the sea, each different from the other." So now I want to talk about these two terms, the four winds and also coming up from the sea. And I want to explain what I think that means. Okay, so if you look on the left side of your screen, you're going to see 7 points. And the first 3, I'm really just showing how the Bible talks about north, east, south, and west as winds, the four winds of heaven. And these are just some examples. There are many. The Old and New Testament talks a lot about the four winds of heaven. For point 4, you'll see that that's a rapture passage, Matthew 24:31, where it talks about getting the elect. God is going to come back and basically collect the elect from the four winds of the earth. Okay, so we Christians are going to be spread all over the earth. We're not going to be all compact in one location. We're going to be spread out. Okay, and then if you look at point 5, Revelation 7:1 actually shows us that the four winds and the four corners of the earth are the exact same thing. All right, and then point 7 and 6 and 7, they both talk about the pillars of the earth, which all three of these terms are just really talking about what we would call the compass, north, east, south, and west. So a good way to explain what it means by the four winds is basically as far as it is from the north is to the south and all the land in between, and as far as it is from the west to the east and all the land in between there. So really, it's kind of just saying the whole earth. All right, and then if you look on the right side of your screen, you're going to see how it's talking about the seas, and it says that these beasts come up from the sea, and this is mentioned also repeatedly in the Bible. Revelation 13:1 has the same four beasts coming up, and they're part of course, the Antichrist kingdom, the last kingdom before Jesus. And interestingly, they have 7 heads and 10 horns, which we're going to get into in the next in a few videos. We're going to see that this kingdom here in Daniel 7 also has 4 regions, but it has 7 heads and 10 horns. Okay, so it's just repeating itself. It's just telling us more information each time that it repeats itself. Okay, so in Revelation 17:15, we have already had what the many waters represents that Babylon is resting on or has control over, and that is right there on the screen on the right side, peoples, multitudes, nations, and languages. So when it says from the sea, I think it's really just talking about the whole earth. And just to prove my point even more, let's look at Daniel 7, verse 17, and you'll see it again. "These huge beasts, 4 in number, are 4 kings who will rise from the earth." So there it says they're rising from the earth, and in verse 3 it says they're rising from the sea, but it's really the earth would mean the sea and the earth, right? And so if you look on your the right side of the screen, you're going to see just little pictures of the earth, and I just showed all these different parts of the earth. And what do you see? You see as the earth, you see the seas. There's many seas all over the earth. So really, I think what it's just meaning is it's kind of just said in 2 different ways by saying the 4 winds of the earth and coming up from the sea and then coming up from the earth. I think it's just saying the whole earth, and that's what that means. So there will be a kingdom that comes and will smash and crush the whole earth. And this lines up with Daniel chapter 2 and Revelation 17, which we've already looked at. I'm going to do something a little bit different as we go from verses 4 through 7 in the rest of this video. I am going to not try to guess who the lion, the bear, the leopard are and what regions of the world they represent, because I think it's quite speculative. If you want to do future research on it, I would really suggest doing it according to other verses in the Bible that refer to these different beasts as different kingdoms. That's going to be your most accurate way of studying. I just find it unnecessary. It's going to be very obvious when it actually unfolds in real time, which is not just yet. So I think instead that what's more important is what they do, because that's what we're trying to find out, is what is the world going to be like before the 10 and the Antichrist show up. So that's what I want to focus on. What do these different regions or kingdoms of the earth, what do they do? What are their actions? And we're going to write those down. So let's pick up at verse 4. The first was like a lion, but had eagle's wings. I continued watching until its wings were torn off. It was lifted up from the ground, set on its feet like a man, and given a human mind. So we notice on the left side of the screen, I have written that it changes form. So something that is a beast and is not a human is somehow changed and is given abilities as if it is a human, but it is definitely not human. So that's an interesting thing, a little disturbing, actually. Let's look at verse 5. Suddenly another beast appeared, a second one that looked like a bear. It was raised up on one side with 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. It was told, "Get up, gorge yourself on flesh." So in some versions, it actually says devour. And so I looked up the word, and it just means to completely destroy, which also lines up with Daniel chapter 2 and Revelation 17, doesn't it? We have this group that's rising up, and it's destructive and powerful, and it's getting abilities it ought not have. Let's keep reading in verse 6. After this, while I was watching, suddenly another beast appeared. It was like a leopard with 4 wings of a bird on its back, and it had 4 heads, and it was given dominion. So this is where I get the idea that there are 7 heads to this, because you have the first one, which is the lion. You have the second one, which is the bear. You have the third one, which is the leopard, but it has 3 extra heads. And then we have the fourth one. So this third one is given dominion, once again, control. So it's taking control of the earth. That's what these kingdoms are all about, is destroying, taking control, and getting abilities they ought not have. Let's look at verse 7. After this, while I was watching in the night visions, suddenly a 4th beast appeared, frightening and dreadful and incredibly strong, with large iron teeth. It devoured and crushed and trampled, and it trampled with its feet whatever was left. It was different from all the beasts before it, and it had 10 horns. And we're going to stop there because we're not going to go on past the 10 for right now. So these 10 horns, it's going to go on and tell us that these are 10 kings. And we already know about the 10 kings from Revelation 17 and the 10 toes of Daniel chapter 2. So interestingly, this beast, whatever hasn't already been crushed and destroyed and demolished by these other 3, this 4th one completely just finishes the job. So this is a frightening thing, and it really is saying in just more, it's just using more extreme words to explain in greater detail how it is that this group, that how the world is going to be looking right before the 10 come up. It's going to be that some sort of, from the 4 winds of the earth, so all over the earth, there's going to be these kingdoms that are 4, but yet have 7 heads and 10 horns, and they will have abilities they ought not have. They will devour and destroy. They will take dominion and control. They will crush and they will smash the whole earth. So this is the picture that we get before the 10 and the Antichrist show up. This is what the world is going to look like.